So far in your book, how are you pleased? Are you pleased with what your book has done? Do you feel accomplished? Do you feel like you've accomplished something by completing it? And where are you in how the book is doing so far? I don't know if you actually pay attention to sales or some of the feedback you've been given. What kind of feedback have you been given about your book?
Well, I know over 100 books have been purchased. Some by myself, some by other people. So I can see, and it was still very early in the distribution. My feeling is a book will sell itself, and that when people read the book and they want to do what you talked about a little earlier, they want to hand it to somebody and say, "You need to read this. There's some stuff in here." I also think that when you when you're a first time author, and in our community, people have the tendency with first time authors not to really understand what is he doing, and maybe a little hesitant and reluctant because they just don't believe, or the confidence is not there that you can actually pull this off. And so there's some people who just will support you and they just buy the book because they say, "Oh, I want to support you." But I'm looking for I really want this book to go, and I'm happy it has done that, to the people who really need it, who really are going to engage the subject matter and be helped by it. I got a text here from a brother the other day, and this brother, I love to read this text to you.
Yes, please.
You know what? I'm going to read this other one because I think it gets to it may even do a better job. It says this. It says, "Good morning, Pastor. The book is really, really doing well. Well, let me say, no man can do this except God be with him. In reading the book, I wish I had time to just sit down and read it uninterrupted straight through. The presentation of the information is the perfect combination of scholarship and relatability. I'm headed to chapter 4 already. Look forward to your next book. Be blessed." That's very typical of a lot of people who have responded, whether it's on YouTube or however they've responded. It's been really a great outpouring of responses for people who read. One of the things we have in our communities, a lot of people just don't read. And let's call it out. They don't read, and so there are people who want to support you, and I get it. They want to support you, but I really want to know, what did you experience when you were reading the book? What was your experience? You don't have to repeat every chapter, and that you don't try that to impress me. But I don't need support. I really want people to be engaged. I think that when you engage yourself with this book, it raises some questions about a number of things that are that just require us to do a retrospect on.
Yeah.
Book's doing well.
Good. Good. So with that in that text message that the person sent you and talking about scholarly, to me it definitely is some aspects is scholarly, which challenges me, which I like as a reader. I definitely like to be challenged. I like to be challenged in some of whether it's be the concepts or a certain word that I just don't know. I think that's how at least I grow. I think we grow, and this book definitely challenged me. Reading through, had to pause and say, what does that mean? What does that entail? And speaking of in technology, the great thing about having it digitally is I can click on the word, hold it, and it'll look up the word for me. So I don't have to run to another bookshelf and grab a dictionary or pull out my phone and try to figure out what words mean. So that is the beautiful thing about have it electronically, is that I can touch on the word, something that I don't understand, and do that with any book. And so there's some terminologies that you use in this book that I'd like to ask you about, and that I would like some clarification and how you came up with these, and why are they in this book. And the first one, let me find my tab here, and maybe you can help us through, and I'll read it. Finally, reoccurring arguments throughout the book um, juxt- juxtapose egalan- egalitarianism and complementarianism. And you say egalitarianism is the belief in human equality and level playing fields, particularly politically, socially, economic, and gender equality. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, if you don't
So
mind?
throughout the book, we are juxtaposing, we are comparing, we are pitting, we are uh, using egalitarianism and complementarianism to make our arguments. They are diametrically opposed to each other.
Okay.
And in seminaries across this country, across the world, there is this argument about the egalitarian position and the complementarian position, and they're very important discussions to have. And the backdrop is, for every chapter, is that we are being deceived in some way, whether it is through egalitarianism or some other means. There are these self-deceptions that lead to external deception, and external deceptions that cause more self-deception, that exacerbate self-deceptions. But egalitarianism in this book, to get right to the point, is that sometimes equality is not where God is. It's not where God wants you in faith at all. And many times people push equality as a standard, but it's not a Bible standard. It's not what God breathes out of his mouth. I'm trying to make everybody equal here. That's not how that works.
Give me an example. Is there a biblical example that
Sure.
you?
Romans chapter 9. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy.
It's true. Yeah.
I'm gonna, yeah, I elevated this person, and I can make one lump of honor and one lump for dishonor. He's saying about people. I can have one person who's going to end up honorable and another person who's going to end up dishonorable. I'm the one. I am the potter. You are the clay. There's nothing in the Bible that says that we have to be that God administrates and orchestrates equality. It's just not there.
Yeah. And
But
and
these
as you
but
were,
these notions of equality continue to be perpetrated on a number of levels by a number of people, and sometimes they actually encounter they actually find them. This stuff actually finds its way into our theology,
Mhm.
and we rationalize it in a way as though it is actually from God, and it's not. So yeah, no, I mean there's some social justice. There are some social justice proponents who rationalize this into our theology where it doesn't belong.
Mm. Yeah, and thinking, I guess we can go back to, Adam and Eve and how they were, you know, they were created, but they weren't, you know, created equally in a sense, and their roles were not created equally, even though Eve came out of Adam, but Adam had responsibility, and sin didn't come into the world until Adam, disobeyed God's commandment. And I think you're right. We are, and I thank God that it's not the same for everybody. I mean, you can look at some of the things we've done in our life, and even some of the things you've talked about in your book, that where other people may have done what we've done, or maybe tried a drug or had a drink or something like that, and it cost them their life. And others of us have, we've been able to make it home. We've been able to, not be addicted to to a substance, and so it affects everybody differently. And I think about King David and Saul. How Saul messed up, David messed up time and time and time again, and yet he didn't go without being punished. But he wasn't rejected like Saul was rejected. And so looking at things like that, that God's mercy, he'll have mercy, as you said, he'll have mercy on whom he'll have mercy.
Yeah,
So
I have to treat my children differently. I don't treat my children the
yes,
same. I had to tell them at some point. We started off egalitarianism. You bought her ice cream, okay? You get him how, and he got ice cream, and I had to do it all the way across. But then as they got older, when Juliana turned 9, she wanted to start playing the piano. The piano was $4,000. Christian wanted to play the violin. The violin was $200, and all of a sudden we're off the script. There was no way I was going to go buy Christiana a $4,000 violin.
right.
So,
That's totally
so if you
true.
just look in the very practical sense, that this, we should not entitle 4-foot guys who are 4 foot tall to the high school varsity basketball team. That's egalitarianism. We want to make level the playing field, give everybody a chance, and make it all equal. In concept, that is good. And conceptually, it's okay to try to bring equality. But the Bible, when there is loss, the thing that the Bible has done is it does restoration. And if you look at the book of the law after Exodus chapter 20, chapter 21, 22, you see restoration. That's what the Bible focuses on. But somehow we've conflated restoration with equality, and those are two different things. So the book of the law, you got the Ten Commandments, then you got the book of the law, where it goes through it gives you all these scenarios for restoration. If this happens to this guy, then you give him 6 cows or whatever it is that you have to do.
Yeah.
But it's restoration, and these concepts, we somehow have figured out how to conflate them, and conflating them is what I would call dangerous. And we see it playing out across our faith and in the world that we work in and all of that stuff. So there are deceptions hidden in this thing called egalitarianism.
Do you think we hold on to that egalitarianism maybe a little too long? Like you use the example with your children, at a certain point, yeah, they start to branch off and, go one goes to the violin, the other one goes to the piano, but before that, they're all going to get a roof over their head. They're going to eat, the same dinner. One is not getting McDonald's while the other has to eat, broccoli, mashed potatoes, and chicken or whatever. So, but then at a certain point, like you said, they get older to where now I have to put that it's there conceptually. I still provide a roof over their head and food, but yet here are these different things that, I have to start doing for my children. Now, I think that's a great example because, a lot of people can relate to that. And, our children are different. They come from the same parents, and yet they're two totally different. And so do you think that there is a certain point where we put egalitarianism in its proper place and then kind of break away from it?
Well, egalitarianism is the way a government tries to operate, and it's fair in that respect. But the kingdom, the theocracy, where God resides, we cannot apply the worldly standards in the government and apply those to the egalitarian standards to the theocracy. We know what's in God's mind in the millennium kingdom. We're living in the 6th dispensation of grace right now. But we already know it's in the 7th dispensation. He's going to rule from the throne for 1,000 years, and we are going to be in complementary roles.
Okay. Explain a little bit about that.
Well, you got a 7th dispensation after the rapture and Armageddon, and the Lord comes back and judges. The Christ, that throne forever that he told he was going to give to David, now the throne forever is going to be there. He's going to be on the throne forever as King of King and Lords of Lord. And in that world, and that's going to happen here on the earth for 1,000 years. But in that setting, this has to be very clear. It is not an egalitarian. Jesus is not going to be ruling as an egalitarian. Well, let me just see if I can make this fair for everybody. No, that's this. You have a role. Everybody has to fit in their role. And when we break role, that's when we get our problems. Just because you can do a thing don't mean you should do it. Just because you can You have great ideas doesn't mean you're the person to be pushing those ideas. Let the other folks that God is calling into these roles. So the key thing is that in the theocracy, under the rule of God, in our relationship with God, in our church, and in our families, the motto is someone leads and someone helps. Someone leads, someone helps. And it's interdependent. It's not intersecting, but it's interdependent. And I think that a lot of times in marriages, many marriages are intersecting, not interdependent. Intersecting mean you have a calendar, I have a calendar. Let's see let's see when we can take a vacation. It's intersecting. Oh, looks like, but when people are interdependent, the husband and the wife are on the same calendar. So maybe the calendar's up in the kitchen someplace, and it's like, oh, I see you got this going on here. Okay, let me move around. So that they're working together. It's interdependent. Interdependent means that interdependent is I need you. I need you. I need you to help me. Intersecting is your mother-in-law telling your wife, now he seemed like a good man, but don't be dependent on no man, because you don't know what's going to happen. You need to get your own education. You need to get your own car. You need to get your own house. You need to get your own money. You need to get there we go. And so women have through feminism carved out this space of being independent and strong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's just not the Proverbs 31 wife who is interdependent. And while she's interdependent, the Proverbs 31 wife, not while she's interdependent, she's elevating her husband, which elevates her. The best example I can give you is our good sister Savannah James, the wife of LeBron James. LeBron made this statement, which stuck with me. He said, "None of this is possible without Savannah." And I took that to mean this: his duration, being able to play so long, his mood when he go on the court, his no scandals, no big scandals or anything like that, his family life, the children at home, his travel schedule, his being away. None of this is possible without a Savannah James holding it down on this end. She ain't running around with another man. She's not out there in the public talking bad about him. She's not saying, well, you do this and I'm going to go do this. No. Or I need my own money. I need my own money so I can do my own thing. It's a different idea. So we are 60, 80 years into a time of women needing to be strong, needing to be independent and strong. And so the book really gets into this whole point of where it doesn't say egalitarianism is bad. It just says that it can be deceiving, especially in the areas of things like LGBTQ. Mm-hmm. When we want to level the playing field so level that pastors go put on T-shirts that say, we stand hand in hand, LGBTQ. And I think that we should be saying we should have a T-shirt that says, for God so loved the LGBTQ. Nothing wrong. I love gay people. I love lesbians. I love queer people and questioning people and transgender. I love them all. In Jesus' name, I love them all. I'm not here to try to make somebody feel bad about when I meet them or who they are in that moment. Jesus came not into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. John 3:17. When you was in the presence of Jesus, you never felt condemned. But I can't say that as a pastor that I need to be leveling the playing field for someone who's in the LGBTQ community. I just don't think that it messes with my ecclesiology in such a way that it makes it difficult for that ecclesiology to reconcile with my theology.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the book Leveling the Playing Field is very challenging. It creates some problems.
What's your favorite part of the book? If you had to pick one chapter or one section, say, man, this is my favorite. What would that be?
Probably chapter 14. Chapter
Okay.
2, chapter 14 and chapter 2 are my favorite. I mean, if I didn't know Dwayne Fisher and I read this book, chapter 14 is called The Sensational Edge. Ooh, just the title of that. When you read that chapter, you're gonna feel like, wow, this is what it feels like on the edge. It's, when you are on the edge of disobeying God and you're in this really gray area. Remember the story of when the Lord, when Cain kills Abel, right before he does that, he's right on the edge and he says, look, sin lies at the door.
Yeah.
He says that to Cain. And there are these moments, and in that chapter, I probably go down to the microscopic subatomic level, talking about the very twitch inside of your chest that causes you to just lean this way 10 centimeters.
Yeah.
Into sin. I try to go down to that micrometer level where the twitches and instincts that are there, the thoughts that percolate during that time. So chapter 14 is the bookend for chapter 1. So the chapter 1 is the opening argument and chapter 14 is the closing argument.
Gotcha. And I haven't got to 14 yet. Look
Well,
forward to getting up.
it's in chapter 14. It's when the desire of the Satan, he wants to be co-God.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to be co-God. And here it is. He says, I'm going to make my throne like the Most High. What he wants is an egalitarian outcome. I want to be equal with God. I want to be co-God. Because I want to make my desire is to make mine as high as yours and do this and that and other. You can't be God alone. You can't be God alone. Somebody else has to be, and that's not how that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he asks, he makes the request. He shows the desire to be co-God. And he makes it very plain. And that playbook, that egalitarian, I want to be equal to God playbook falls to earth with the Satan.
Yeah.
That's what falls to earth with the Satan. And it shows up in our institutions. Fairness. And now let me put it on a practical level. Christiana, when I bought Juliana that $4,000 piano, Christiana could have came back with the whole guilt move and just said, wow, Dad, you spent $4,000. It's like, can I get a bike or something? That's just not fair. And if I'm a complementarian, I hear that completely different. Daughter, listen. If you choose to play the piano, then you'll share a piano. If you choose to play the violin, we will make sure you have a violin because that's going to be your role. If Juliana chooses the violin, y'all can switch it. And you take, but we're not going to buy two pianos, or we're not going to try to make things equal because they seem unequal to you, and you want me to output something to make it equal. It's just not. This is where we have been as a country for a long time, and we're straining. And this is where relationships between husbands and wives have been strained, because everybody wants to be independent. And nobody wants to be Savannah James. Without a college education, she figured out how to weave herself into the arguably one of the best men that ever laced up the shoes and played basketball and managed his career for 20
Yeah,
plus years.
that she has, and and raised
Stood in
her
the
family.
background. Stood in the background.
Mhm.
Every once in a while, you might see him, kiss her or something like that, but he knows what she did for him.
Yeah, yeah,
He needed her. It was an interdependent relationship. There may have been
yeah,
times when he messed up and he came and told her, and she said, "We getting ready to work through this." Interdependence.
yeah. I love that interdependence. I was thinking about those bank accounts and how some people, married couples, have secret bank accounts from each other and things like that. And I don't have that, in my marriage. I'm thankful for that. That it's, hey, I like you said, I need you, you need me, and we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna put this in the pot, and we're gonna figure this out together. Not that my spouse, my wife, can't have her own things that she may want to do, because birthdays come up, or she just wants to do something nice, or want to get me something, and then it's okay, and I may not want me to see it in the certain account or whatever. So I totally get that, but I really do get that. It's not like, hey, I got mine. um the the it's her job to pay the PG&E, and she didn't do it because her money is short. Well, I'm not giving her mine, or she's got to come, beg me for it. No, it's in the pot. We're all in the pot. We're going to take care of this
Right,
together.
right,
And if there
right.
is something, hey, I want to have a little thing over here, or we decide to have a vacation fund, or whatever, or hey, your birthday's coming up. Don't worry about this X, Y, and Z disappearing over here. It's for something, So I'm totally with that, and I think that too, like you said, that um, it that kind of thinking will definitely affect a marriage. At least I think it would affect mine. I've only been married once, thank God, and but having that, where that thinking of where maybe she wants to be on my level, in the sense of what God has made me as the leader, the head of my home, or me trying to be on her level and trying to match and not know what God has made me. That can cause problems. And like you said, I can be deceived. We can be deceived as wives. We can be deceived as husbands by allowing certain things to come in and be like, well, that's just the way things are. It's not like my grandmother when she was coming up, where the man went to work, woman stayed home and did X, Y, and Z. We got to let them do this, and we got to let them do that. And I think about that, and I think about, even sticking with sports, the football analogy. I heard Mike Tomlin talk about his players, and he said, "You all will be treated fairly, but you will not all be treated the same." He said, "You will all be treated fairly, but you will
Right.
not all be treated the same."
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, if he throws 2 interceptions, he's going to stay in the game.
Right,
But if Chris Wade comes in and throws 1 interception, I'm out of there.
right,
Well, I'm going to be treated fairly. I've been given an opportunity, but
right,
he's the franchise. LeBron
right,
James can miss 5 shots. He can go 0 for 20. Chris Wade, Dwayne Fisher can't go 0. We're not even going to get 20 off. We miss
right,
one, we're having a seat.
right.
But, so yeah, we're not all treated the same. And I thank God. I honestly thank God for that, because um,
Well, the
you, you
kingdom, the kingdom, Chris, is not like that. Well, here's a really good example too. Um, when when Jesus goes and heals the man at the pool of Bethsaida,
uh-huh.
it says, and many sick folk are there, but he steps over sick people to heal one man. Now, why not heal everybody while you're there? That's egalitarian.
He could have.
That would have been equal, but that's not what he did. He only healed one. because that man had a role to play. That
So
man had been at that pool longer than Jesus had been born. He'd been there 38 years. That man could have said to Jesus, "Look here, man. I was out here before you was born. 8 years before you were born. I was out. I mean, what are you? You don't know about my problem. I was out here a long time, man. You wasn't even. They hadn't even, the shepherds and all them people that hadn't even seen the star and all that stuff. I was out here 8 years before y'all went to Bethlehem, and your mom and daddy went down to Bethlehem and had you in the stable. I was out here 8 years. I was out here 8 years before that."
yeah.
Now, and then Jesus could say, "Okay, I'm gonna heal you." And then some people, "Well, you healed him. Why didn't you heal me? I've been coming to the pool too." We cannot think of the kingdom of heaven, the theocracy of God, the holy God of Israel, as who is the Father of Jesus Christ. We cannot we can't see that through the lens of egalitarianism, that we have to make everything equal for everybody. It just doesn't work.
Even when we get to heaven, we'll receive different rewards.
Godliness with contentment is great gain.
Yeah, yeah. I know we'll be happy to get there, to get into heaven, but we want to get our rewards, and I think that's what Satan tries to keep us from. Being content, being content, and even as even in your book and moving into chapter 2 and marriage, and I think that affects marriages too. Being content with what you have. We see things, we see other people, other marriages, we see other people, what they're driving, what they're wearing, what their spouse may look like compared to what we have, and then we are not content. Back to Adam and Eve, they were not content with what God had already provided for them. They wanted to go beyond, and like you talked about, being on the edge of sin, being on that ledge. I want more than what you have provided, and I think that's where we get into trouble when we think that God isn't enough, and we try to step outside of those lines that He has drawn for us for our protection, our protection. And I think that it's good that we can that God in His kingdom, and even in our churches, that we don't practice that egalitarianism where things have to be equal, because it's for a purpose. It's for a purpose, and some get sick and get healed. Some get sick and they pass away, but it's all for His purpose,
Correct.
It is all for His purpose. So yeah, I am grateful for that. So we have egalitarianism, and then we have what was the other one?
Complementarianism, right?
Complementarianism. Let's talk a little bit more about complementarianism.
Well, at the very core of complementarianism, complement is that people complement each other. With a woman has long hair, man have short hair. Man likes to put his hands through the long hair. Woman has, but the man has short hair, and we complement each other. A woman or a man. I will tell you this: a woman or a man, we want each other in our divinely appointed roles. If a woman gets just the faintest hint of any kind of feminine energy or action in a man, that's just not a man she's interested in. Women don't like feminized men. A woman wants a man to compliment her. When you go out with your woman, she's looking at your clothes before you walk out. She's like, "Okay, I don't like that tie." It's a complimentary. You can't even see what she see, but she sees something and understands something about you and what it is you're wearing in order. And that's complementarian. She's that helper in the garden that complements you. And you compliment her with who you are as the man. You offer her a life and protection and leadership and we have the problem with the word complementarianism is that people think that the word being submissive to someone is a negative word. It's actually not negative. It's a good thing that we are submissive, that a wife is submissive to a husband. It doesn't mean that that she's a slave, not at all, to him, but it does say a whole lot about how important it is for the movement or the progress in a marriage, the sustainability of a marriage when one person understands the role they have in that marriage. And so somebody has to be the father and lead the children, and someone has to be the mother to nurture children. Somebody has to be the disciplinarian. Someone is very good at communicating with vocally, with conversation. We have these different roles. I know that women have become so independent, they've made it really easy for single men not to marry them because they don't need nothing. They don't need nothing. Their mamas have already convinced them that, you better get your own stuff. You don't need a man now to help you, now, but you want a man, but you don't. They'll tell you don't need a man because we've let women down. We let them down.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, we've let them down. We've not taken the lead in so many areas. There are many areas in chapter 2 I talk about. If you have sex with a woman before you marry her, it says this about you, which we don't get. Men don't get this. This is what it says about you, though. It says that you didn't have the ability to resist, to control yourself while you were in the courtship phase. Mm-hmm. You couldn't restrain yourself. But she wants to be desired, but you couldn't restrain yourself. And what it says to her, which men don't know how women think, but this is what I've heard women say, it says you're weak. And that out of your presence, because they see you go through that weak part. They see when you succumb to your fleshly desires. They see when the man succumbs and he wants the sex. And then, he's pushing for it. He's supposed to be a Christian man, but he's pushing for it. And they see that woman, they see that man, and they see what happened and why he didn't, they know why he didn't stop. And so if he's out of my presence and someone else tempts him or something else creates, then I don't know that man is capable of resisting outside of my presence another woman. But if that man goes through that courtship phase and she's clear that he is not getting ready at any point to allow sexual sin to enter into the marriage, the relationship until they are married, she can have a little trust. She doesn't have to build a tower and watch over him and lean into his text messages. Wait a minute, you know what? I know him. He ain't doing nothing with me. It's very unlikely he ain't trying to mess up nothing. He seems very focused on us and us getting together and building something together. He wants to build something together, and he wants it to be based on trust. And the only way that the great thing is that when that woman trusts you walking out the house, you can go out there and make a lot of money. You can go out there, but if she can't trust you, she calling, she checking, she's got to be all over you, building. She erects a tower to watch over you, and she takes a role of leadership for herself.
Yeah. In chapter 2, and when you talk about the relationship with the R&B, the R&B singer, um, do you think that she was here and just wanted something to complement her because she had her own this and own that, and just um, you know, it didn't kind of need a man, but hey, I want you. I think you even mentioned that as an accessory kind of thing, to go with this. You go with where I am right now in at this point in my career, at this point in my life. And there's that happens with women also when they get to that point of whether it's in leadership, and men too. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
that's that point. I've reached this status now. Now I need this type of woman. I want this kind of woman, where the girl in high school or the girl from your local area is no longer good enough. You want this thing over here of what, like it goes, back to what you said, the deception, being deceived,
yeah.
that this is what you need, this is what you want, this is now, since you're here, you don't need this down here, and so many people have broken off because now they're famous. Oh, I don't want to deal with you anymore, you're not on my level, or and vice versa. And that goes for men and women. Man works hard, goes out there, sacrifices, puts his woman through law school or medical school, or a woman sacrifices for her husband to go to medical school or to go back to school and get their degree. And then now that they've got it, now you're that accessory that I don't need anymore. Well, he's broken down because he went out there and worked 12-hour days, swinging a hammer or doing, what was necessary for the family. Or she sacrificed and stayed home and took care of these kids so that you could go there and you didn't have to worry about where your kids were at 3:30, so that you could focus on that. And now you've reached this status, and then now you don't need them anymore, and I think that's that's unfortunate in our relationships. There's that. It's not a what do you call it? Interdependency.
Interdependent. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, interdependent. Yeah, we cease from that with those kinds of attitudes and accolades, and I think that it is important during the courtship to find out that kind of information, to find out what it is you want to be, where's this going, and but I guess sorry to be so long-winded, but in your relationship with that, your friendship, courtship with the R&B singer, do you think that she just may have looked at you as an accessory piece?
I don't know. I can't say exactly how she looked at me. It's been so long. It's been over 30 years since that time. But I will say that I think she was in her independence and womanhood, trying to make it as a star. She ended up having a really string of hits and went on to do really well. She was doing good when I met her, but I was an unknown quantity. She wasn't getting ready to let somebody who she had just met be an interference or an interruption in her progress. She'd made a lot of progress at that point, so the best that I could probably do is get on her coattail and hang on. So that's one of the things that you learn. And I learned. I watched her, and I was doing a lot of waiting while she would be talking to these other record people, marketing people, whatever they were, and immediately I was like, oh, I don't like this, because it did not play. It didn't play into my hand the way I wanted. I mean, I was like, I'm looking for a girlfriend. I'm not looking for, somebody that's like, hey, what we doing tonight? I was going to be calling her saying, hey, are we going? Can we do something? And I
Yeah.
called and called and called, and it was, so that's the kind of thing that happened.
With your marriage that you speak of on, being in chapter 2, being jaded before marrying day. Um, was that marriage, if you don't mind me asking, was that a interdependent marriage, or did it start off that way? Did anything?
Yeah, there were aspects and flashes of both intersecting and interdependence. So I could
Okay.
say that, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think there's some benefits to intersecting? That everything in marriage have to be interdependent?
Well,
I know
you
the
know
scripture
what,
does say, you
I
become
think
one
that,
flesh.
yeah, I think that there are. I think that the aim, like in anything, the aim is interdependence, being interdependent or interdependence.
Hmm.
That's the aim. But sometimes you end up intersecting because something, but you both aim at being interdependent.
Yeah.
And then if you have to intersect at some point, then you do.
Yeah. I think, especially as you grow and the years you put in, you learn to trust a little bit more. You grow. Hopefully, that's what it is. I'm going to assume, like, I'm not a marriage expert, but that what you were in year one. Hopefully, you in year 10, you're different and more interdependent than you were maybe in year one,
Well,
because
let
there
me say
is a.
something. Can I say something about that? That
Well,
there's something in what you just said. If you take the egalitarian approach and you're intersecting, then you're going to grow in different directions. You're going to grow more independent. You're going to grow. He grows in his independence. She grows in her independence.
so somewhere we've gotta let go.
Well, isn't it ironic that when people get sick and when they become elderly and get sick, that
Yeah.
there is a spouse who stays there and comforts and commits to that person, and there's another spouse who just can't do it because I'm depending on you to have your stuff together, and you don't have your stuff together.
Yeah.
So, I just heard a story about somebody in Arizona. A lady, she was married to the guy. She told the daughters to come on over here. Your dad's got dementia, and I gotta go. I didn't sign up for this. So that's a true story. That's a true story.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And how quickly we forget those vows, that we take, and it sounded good, um, when we made them, and then there's days where we get, you know, we
You,
forget.
the chapter is really chapter 2 has just got so much stuff in it. That like women will create a standard that they'll create a standard that they want a tall man, and when they're young, they want this tall guy, and will sometimes hurt themselves to get a tall guy.
Hmm.
Afflict harm on themselves with a tall guy who doesn't care very much about them, rather than a guy their height or shorter, who who will love them to death and
Yeah.
take care of them, honor, cherish, and work with them, and promote them and be a resource and a blessing. And our minds are deceived with so many things.
Yeah.
Men
Yeah.
men seem to attribute good wife to a beautiful woman. Just because a woman's pretty doesn't mean she's gonna make a good wife. But somehow we equate those things,
Yeah.
especially when we're young.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. You mentioned something in there, and I don't think I marked it, but I do remember it in there. You said marriage is a snitch. That term jumped out at me. I believe, and that is in chapter 2, where you talked about marriage as a snitch, and that I'm like, huh? Could you elaborate on what you meant by that?
Yeah, marriage. The way a marriage flexes, whether and the things that become public when that marriage is in flux it's flexing inside, and then there's flux. When that starts to happen with people and public things are seen, it becomes the tell-all, because it snitches on us all. Because if these things become public, then in itself, the marriage is just the contract, but it says so much about our behavior and how we treat another human being. And do you know that there's some people will come up there and apply a lens of fairness on that, which it may not, he makes all the money, and what he should be doing is, and there we go, letting her go back to school while, paying for her to go to school, and let her go back, and so it could be, because they're saying we need to get to a place of equality so that she can have as much as he has. And I'm not trying to create women's suffrage. No, not at all. If you agree and your wife agree that she wants to go back to school, to God be glory for you both. There could be purpose in that, and God can be using it. But I'm saying is that when a marriage is, when external things come out, marriage just tells on us. It says that we are, when it snitches, it says that we are unloving. It says that we are undisciplined. It says that we're not willing to take the lumps with the love. It says so many things. It says that we're willing to give up too quick. It says that we're deceived. We deceived in the other person. It says that we are unwilling to bend any. It can humiliate us in a church environment or a church community, when you coming in with a nice suit and your wife is coming in looking like a ragamuffin.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going on there? It's not about equality. It's telling on you. And he says, he never does anything. He never does anything.
Oh,
I've been living like this, and there she is, upset.
Yeah. One of the pins that I had here, and I'll read it. I believe this in chapter 2. Nonetheless, to the glory of God, when we celebrate the wisdom of celibacy before we get married, we have the most amazing opportunity to observe how our potential spouse functions under stress, adversity, obstacles, and challenges. We should at all costs avoid wasting marital love on someone who does not function well. We should also avoid the delusion of entering a marriage based solely on romantic love, as it will only lead to more self-deception. Trust in the counsel that says wisdom will never deceive you. Choose it and avoid the shortcuts of a fool. And that just speaks to what you were just talking about there. You can you elaborate on that on that section?
Well, yeah, there is this notion here that that romantic love is the engine. It is not the engine, because and the word function in that text when I was writing, we don't. Most of the times when we split up, divorce, whatever it is, it's not because the love wasn't good. It's because we don't like the way that person functions. We don't like the way they function. He doesn't take out the garbage. He can't fix nothing. He don't know nothing. He doesn't take me no place. She doesn't, it's function. We break up with people because of function. He keeps gambling. He's running up. He keeps messing up the car. He don't know how to fix the car. He don't know how to get it fixed. He don't have no money. He'll never have no money. He's chasing women. It's function. Very rarely is it. I'm sure it does happen, but very rarely is it that. There are husbands and wives who who are not self-aware,
Yeah.
Who can't see themselves. They percolate to a beat that is intersecting and rather than interdependent. They'll do things. They'll do some things for you, but really in the big picture, it's about them. And everybody being taught to be independent and pursuing that. So when I'm when I'm talking about wisdom and function in that part, I'm really saying that the folks who are wise know that function is important. And if you before we get married, if you see how I function before we get married, because sex before marriage changes everything. It's hard. It's really difficult. It's really difficult if you're having sex with someone before your marriage, it's really difficult to break up with that person because of how they function. You see you see a big red flag. Oh, but you've been having sex with this person. But you see this really big red flag. She kills chickens she kills picking chickens and pours blood into a cup and puts a candle out and says some words that you don't understand. But she is going to be real emotional and mad when you say they're not, but because you done dipped into the magic waters. And so she going to be really angry when you try to break up with her. But if you break up with her and say, you know what? You haven't been sleeping with her. You don't have sex with her. That's a deal breaker for me. She can get upset, but she knows what it's based on. And your integrity. And she knows because you haven't slept with her and you've disciplined yourself. It's really you are a person of integrity. Yes. She knows there's some principles in there because you've already shown her, I'm not sleeping with you till we get married. No. Let's build something. Let's build something together. We don't have to take a shortcut here and have sex. Let's build something together. Let's check each other out and see if we are compatible. So before you get to watch this person go through adversities and obstacles and stuff like that, you can see them work through their temptation. You really turn me on, girl. You really turn me on, boy. But look, no, we're trying to build something for real, okay? Let's build something for real. Let's do something for real here. I want you to be able to trust me. I need that. I need you to be that person. I need you to be that woman that can trust what I'm doing. I want to build something with you, And so before you get married, that's function. And that's discipline, self-discipline. And that's honor. And that's respect for yourself and for her. And that's restraint. And I can do that with you in a marriage. Because when I say I'm going to go do something, I'm going to deliver it. If I delivered it while we were dating, I can deliver it. And you watch me struggle to make it happen, but I made it happen.
Yeah. That's good stuff there. And it goes back, there's that deception. There's that deception again. So many people, old school term shacking, people live together. Oh, well, I need to live together. I need to live with him or her before to see how they live, which is another word for function, to see how they function, and knowing that now the lines are crossed, lines are blurred, and it's tough. Instead of using wisdom and saying, Lord, show me what I can't see, show me how this person functions, and I don't have to lay down with them, I don't have to live with them, they don't have to live with me in order for that to happen. But Satan comes in and deceives us. Oh,
yeah.
No, you can't marry them. Don't marry them. No, live with them first. Live with them for a year or two.
Yeah. I just had a friend, he a year or so ago, he broke up with his girlfriend, but he didn't sleep with her. And so it was a much cleaner break. Yeah. If you're a pastor at a church and you're dating someone in your church, you need to be declaring celibacy over the pulpit. You need to say it to people, because if you don't, then people assume, you can't get on an airplane and go someplace, you can't go down to LA and stay overnight with somebody. You got to be saying, well, we got separate rooms. You got to say all of that out loud and not let people think, hey, yeah, We are dating, but we have separate, we're going, she's got a hotel room, I got a hotel room, we're going blah, blah, blah. And we're celibate. And to God be glory. I love celibacy. Praise the Lord for celibacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What an amazing testimony that would be in a congregation. If the pastor can stand up and say he's celibate, rather than everybody just kind of hiding in corners and sneaking around and doing whatever it is that they do.
Yeah. Being an example unto the flock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being an example unto the flock. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I am. Thank God I am not in that position. Thank God you are not in that position.
To God be glory.
Do that. Thank God for being married, man. Thank God for our spouses. Is there anything that you want to bring out about chapter 1 or 2 so far before we move on? This is good stuff, man.
Well, I just think that I think that when the opportunity comes, the overall book, if you are a hungry Christian for the wisdom of God, the overall book is enlightening on a number of levels. And I just want to know, and I just want people to have an experience with the book, because each of these chapters are a reflection of experiences I've had in my life, and have encountered things. And I take this and put it on the page, and hopefully people don't get deceived and can be patient, to wait on the Lord. Be patient through your trials, through your temptations, through whatever engagements you have, and don't take the shortcuts.
Yeah. And I love that. And that actually all kind of leads into this AI, and being deceived. And, well, I don't like the way that this person functions. I can go get me something to function the way that I want it to function, how I want it to function, and when I want it to function,
Right.
and we cease to rely upon the Holy Spirit and God's wisdom, and then at the push of a button, we can have it now, and technology and how it's replacing, people's jobs and things like that, because we lose that because we don't like the way people function. We don't, employers are getting rid of human employees because they don't like the way they function.
Correct.
They don't like the fact that they call in sick. They don't like the way that they may take an extra 10 minutes on a break. They don't like the fact that they, the work pins are coming up missing or whatever. They got baby bonding. I don't like the fact that she's pregnant. Now I got to find a temporary person because now she's going to take 12 to 6 months off or whatever the case may be. And so now I can go get somebody or something to function and do what that person has done. And then, we lose.
At the very core, people want to live purposeful lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And purposefulness shows up in really odd and peculiar places. Purposefulness and meaning, it shows up in all kind of places. It shows up in the, you're scheduled to be at work at 8 a.m. You get up at 6 a.m. and get dressed. That it gives a sense of purpose. You go through the traffic or whatever it is you go through to get to your job. You make a determination that you're going to get there and on time, and you're going to navigate that road the way you need to navigate it. But you're also going to get home for your child's recital that evening, and you're also going to navigate that woman who goes on break. It's supposed to be a 10-minute break, but she always come back from break late. And but that brings purpose to your life, because you come home and you talk to your wife about it, and you come home and you tell your children, look, don't be a kind of employee that lollygags and tries to do this. It brings purpose. All of these things bring purpose to our life. AI will take purpose away from our lives for sure. It is going to replace the purpose that we've known for millennia, and put new purposes there, or none at all.
Or none at all. Absolutely.
Because there are all kinds of things that we do where we become purposeful, meaningful people, where we learn things about ourselves. When someone cuts you off on the roadway and you have to resist running into the back of their car, or taking a penny out of your ashtray and throwing it at their window or something like that. Never thought of that one, huh, before? So, I have. I have. I was like, let me pull up on the side of them and whack, throw a whole lot of change at them. That's what you get for cutting me off. But I have never done it. I've resisted it. And then I get to tell that story here on Friday Night Talks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was able, that's one of the things I was able to resist, in my life, and tell it as a story on Friday Night Talks.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And hey, you pull up next to the car and find out it's a Waymo vehicle that doesn't have a driver.
Oh my.
I work in the city, and in those city streets, we call Waymo vehicles Waymo accidents. For what they do, and you lose the interaction with reality. Absolutely, the connection. Even Uber and Lyft and all of those things. At least you have a driver to talk to. At least you have somebody telling you hello. With some of these other vehicles, I get it. People love their peace and quiet, but
people in these vehicles have led other people to Christ. Led people to Christ, or realized that they needed to take someone to the hospital, rather than try to take them to this. It's all kinds of things have happened when there is true human engagement. And long term, I want to live in a world. I want to live my life out in a city that is purposeful, where my life is purposeful. Yeah. And I might even have some arguments with my neighbor, but I learned who my neighbor is, and we're not shooting guns at each other.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That is so true. And I love how you break down those things that we find fault in, those functions that we find fault in the other person, in our spouse, female or male, that Satan is deceiving that, hey, you can have everything that you want without the attitude, without the questions, without the blah 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 that so and so brings in, or that man will be there when you get home, your dinner, as you talk about your dinner.
Could you imagine? I have seen a robot doll, anatomically shaped, and that's going to be there for the whole, however long you bring this thing home, that has warm skin and all of the female parts. And once that gets sophisticated, that person will not ever do any of the stuff that, there will never be any contradictions or contrary moments between you and that doll or that AI robot. It's going to feel like a human being. It's going to be ready to do everything for you, intimately, socially. It's going to be plugged into the internet, knowing what's going on. Do you want to listen? Do you want to talk about? Because we didn't finish that conversation yesterday. It was really beautiful what you were saying to me about it's going to function. And then when you compare that to your human companion, the way it functions, the deception is choosing not to forgive. Because the functions of your human partner, not to forgive them, and going with the substitute that feeds you exactly what you want.
Yeah. Thinking about Adam, it's not good that man should be alone. He gave him a helpmate, for him, not a independent friend, not a independent, partner. In this, he gave him a helpmate from his own flesh, and we definitely lose that, and then we lose our connection to the Lord.
Right.
Lord, my wife got an attitude today. My husband is talking to me harshly. Lord, help him. I don't know what he dealt with out there on that job. I don't know what she dealt with, before an hour before I got here. Lord, I love my wife, or I love my husband. Lord, help this right now. Let me go in here and let's let's hash this out before we go to bed. And then we grow, and makes us closer. Hey, let's go to a movie. You know what? I'm uptight. You're uptight. Yeah, let me take you out. Put that thing on that I like to see you in, and I'll wear this, and let's go out tonight. Let's put on some nice clothes and go out and have a nice dinner. Let's talk about it. Hey, I'm sorry. And at dinner, I get to pat your hand, and feel that soft hand that I felt when we were dating, again, and be reminded of that. And I think that the enemy comes in again, deceiving us, and doesn't want that kind of reconciliation, as the book talks about. So, AI, the marriage and all of those things. Satan is always trying to thwart what God has intended for us ever since day one. So, but he's got his day coming. He's got his day coming. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add, or anything else you want to clear up that maybe you've been hearing about repetitively that maybe some.
No, I appreciate it, dear brother. I just thank you for the interview. I appreciate the interview tonight, and
I appreciate you. I can't wait to get to 14. I can't wait to get to 14 because you know what I'm looking for. Like I said, hey, my treat is going to be when I finish. I want to know who that R&B singer is. Who that R&B person is. That's going to be my prize at the end. Crossing the finish line.
Fair.
I'm grateful for you. And we'll come back. And as these issues and the people that we bring on this show, some of these issues that you bring up might come up in our conversation, in our conversations. And so that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm looking forward to. And looking forward to lining up our guests and doing some more advertising for this. So, man, keep this fresh and we'll talk about this. Maybe even as I continue to read, something may come up that might need a discussion. That might cause and pause for a discussion, and we will definitely do that. I did enjoy listening to you on your audio of reading chapter 1. That was just wonderful. It helped me to feel like me and you were having a conversation.
We are now. End of the month, we'll have all 14 chapters read.
Oh man, that is wonderful. Wonderful. That is.
Yeah, I'll be reading them in my voice, all 14 chapters. So look forward to that.
Man. Because I spend a lot of time in the car, and I don't know about other people out there. I spend a lot of time in the car. I don't live close to my job and I think a lot of people have long commutes. I have an hour each way. That's 2 hours. If the book is maybe, let's just say 6 to 8 hours, man, I can finish the book in 2 days. Or within a week, just one way. Okay, I'm going to listen to Pastor Fisher in the morning, and on my way home, I'm listening to, something else. So I think that is wonderful.
Yeah, the shortest chapter is probably 22 minutes, so 23 minutes.
Chapter 1, but I think chapter 1.
Yeah, so the rest of the chapters are. There's another short chapter that's a little shorter, but most of the chapters are going to be probably 29, 30 minutes.
I love it too, because reading and listening, the things that I miss maybe listening, I go back and I do read. I do that even sometimes devotionally with the Word of God. I not only read it, but I also listen to it, and something will catch my ear, and I need to go back and look at that, and then seeing it as words on the paper makes it come alive. But your voice, definitely, man. I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you will have that. Now, would that be available like on Audible?
Amazon. It'll be on Amazon.
Amazon Audible. I think Audible is the one that will read to you, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not sure if that's how. I know the book is on Amazon, right? That's what.
But it'll be on Amazon with Audible.
Okay, good, great.
Yeah,
great.
It'll be on there, Audible. And it'll be my and it'll be me, but it'll be my voice.
Okay, great, fantastic. Yeah. Like I said, man, it was just and then knowing you too just made it all the more better too. So. We'll definitely encourage people, man, and point people as a Baptist Ministers Conference and on our Easy to Get to Church. Quick question about Easy to Get to Church. On our prayer request, if someone drops a prayer request in there, where does those prayer requests go?
It goes to the email address for the Baptist Ministers Conference, and everybody is privy to respond to it. Typically, I do, or whoever
Okay.
is charged. Yeah.
Okay, great. I was talking to a coworker and the same thing, and I thought about it. They didn't ask me, but I thought about it, man. If somebody asked me where and who
Oh
sees
yeah,
those
they could definitely
prayer
get
requests,
respond to.
just wanted to,
Yeah.
definitely want to get them a response. And so, anyone listening and anyone that will eventually listen to this, we want to encourage you to check out the Easy to Get to Church, powered by the Baptist Ministers Conference of Richmond, California, and vicinity, and the Easy to Get to Church, where there are sermons of the week. Each week there is a national sermon of the week, usually changes on Saturday. So tomorrow, at the time of this recording, it is Friday night. Friday night talks tomorrow, somewhere around noon, between noon and 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. It will flip over to the new sermon of the week and be there for 7 days. And so you can be encouraged. You can find other resources on the Easy to Get to Church, and as well as find a contact information for churches locally here in the Bay Area and surrounding cities. So I want to encourage you to visit the Easy to Get to .church, and Easy to Get to Church should come up. And if you look at it between now and Saturday, I believe Terry Anderson is our preacher for this week. So, and then you can find our event page where you can look up previous Friday night talks that we have. And then next week on the 22nd, I believe, we are having a special guest. And our special guest is, I don't want to get her name wrong, Pastor Fisher.
Sabrina Saunders.
Sabrina Saunders.
Yeah.
Sabrina Saunders. Yes, we will be talking with her about.
Yeah. She's Sabrina Saunders is from the project that has helped the Baptist Ministers Conference through COVID, and she One Accord Project and her website can be found on the Easy to Get to Church as well.
Amen. And so thank you so much, Pastor Fisher. Thank you for sitting down. Thank you for these few weeks, and look forward to seeing you in the morning.
Okay, then.
We got a short trip, man, and we'll see each other real soon tomorrow at our conference meeting. And I thank God for you and anyone that tuned in or will tune in future. And check us out on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube. Richmond, California Baptist Ministers Conference of Richmond and vicinity. All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right,
God bless.
God bless you.
Have a good evening.